Hello and welcome back to Sovereign RPG. I am Sovereign and today we're going to be talking about the Path of Exile 2 post-launch feedback and some updates that are going to be changing. A lot of you guys have been talking about how you didn't like certain things within the game, and there was some issues with rare loot drops and bosses not giving us anything except for a couple of stacks of gold and a white item, getting stuck in caves up against walls while trying to dodge out by little beetles. Some of these changes have been fixed. Not all of them. We're going to go through the patch notes right now and I'll explain to you what they mean. So first up we have the dodge roll changes, and I've been doing the clef notes of all of these. GGG have said that it is intended that monsters are able to trap and kill you, but they felt that the frequency of this was a little too high. They did a couple of little changes. The player size is now set to 0 units, which basically will mean that you can dodge through small gaps. You can't dodge through monsters, but you can dodge through the gaps in between them, even if the smallest gap you can get. So you can dodge through, but you still have the chance of being trapped. Now this is the big change. They have some smaller monsters can now be pushed while dodge rolling. This includes monsters such as the adorned beetles and Kef. I was killed by those beetles, getting me stuck up against the wall. I don't even know how many times. Now that might have been a bit of a skill issue on my front, but it was slightly annoying when you're walking through the thing and they just climb out the walls and then you're stuck up against the wall and you get murdered. That was an annoying thing, but now what's going to happen is when you dodge roll with the smaller monsters and they're coming up and they have you up against the wall, you'll actually push them out of the way, which is something that should have been there kind of in the first place. I mean, if I roll into a beetle, I'm pretty sure it's dead, not just moved out of the way. So that'll probably please quite a few of you. And what these changes will do just means you'll be getting trapped less often, but note that you can still be trapped. It just means you'll be able to get through the small gaps, as I said earlier. So here's a big one. Here's a big one that a lot of people were complaining about: the size of the maps and having to run backwards and forwards across the maps after you've already checked areas out. A lot of players reported that it can be tedious to retread areas of maps in order to get back to objectives that they already found. They added some changes to this. Clicking on a checkpoint will allow you to teleport to other checkpoints in that area that has been explored on your minimap. Checkpoints have been added to all entrances and exits of zones to allow for teleportations. And a checkpoint has been added to the midpoint of the first Dreadnought area. So now when you miss a little part of the map and you're trying to find that rare unique or trying to find that quest, or you're going to have to get the parts for a quest, you can jump back to the other checkpoint without having to run all the way across because you missed that tiny little bit of map. This is a really nice quality of life feature, and they may make further adjustments to it later on while they're gathering their feedback. So now we have item changes. One of the biggest points of contention that has been happening in Path of Exile 2 since the game launched, that people don't feel like it has been rewarding enough for what they have to do. So if they kill a hard boss and they're not getting anything out of it, it kind of feels like you're not being rewarded for your hard work. Now they're going to be making some changes, but these changes are not going to be completely what you think they might be. So they've changed some things where they're going to be adding rarity bonus per rare mod has been doubled, plus 10% quality bonus per rare mod, and increase the chance of rare monsters inherently having more modifiers as you progress through endgame. Now what these changes are for the rare monster changes and what they drop and what the quality of stuff they drop, this is only for endgame. This does not affect the acts at all. This is only for using mods, which I guess you can use it as an example, that they're kind of like support gems that you put into a map that can change the way that it is more monsters, more rares, etc, etc. So this will not affect the acts at all, the main campaign. So there'll be no changes to the monsters on the campaign at all. They've just made the changes for the end game. But they did make some changes to the currency for the early game, and this is mainly to help us be able to sustain adding the mods that they've changed up the top to maps. They've changed the regal orb drop rates to around 40%. They've disenchanted 6 mod rares to give 2 regal shards instead of 1. Lesser jeweler orbs have a drop rate of around 33% increased. They reduced the drop rate of chaos orbs slightly as they are less valued, and so that doesn't consume so much of the rare currency drop pool. This causes currency such as exalted orbs to increase somewhat. Gemcutter's prism drop rates have been increased by 500%. Gemcutter's prisms now increase quality. This is going to help us a lot more with our crafting, with our getting items that are white, and then we can upgrade them all the way along, and adding modifications to our armor and weapons. It's going to help with the crafting, and it's going to help us being able to have enough resources at the end game at least to get started with some map modding. I was kind of hoping that the rare monster changes that they did in the end game was somewhat actually done towards the early game as well, so people felt more rewarded by what they were getting. So more changes to the map mod. Like with rares, we felt that players were being rewarded enough for the difficulty that was being added by map mods. We have significantly increased the value of all prefixed map mod. The rarity mods have been increased by 2.5 times. Quantity mods have had extra rarity added to them. We removed the bottom tier of some mods. You're actually more likely to roll modifiers that affect drops or pack size rather than less useful mods. Again, this just affects the end game. It has nothing to do with the campaign, which a lot of you are still in on and are still completing. So there may be some changes for that in the future, but currently right now there's nothing there. Now here's something that will affect the early game and all throughout the game: the unlucky drop protection. One of the major issues we have identified are outlier unlucky drops. A single unique boss dropping badly, especially early on, can significantly affect your character. They've done some setting changes which no more than 50% of a unique monster drop can be gold, and act bosses and map bosses will always drop at least one rare item for you. Now this doesn't seem like it's going to do much, but what this basically does is takes away from some of the chances of a rare drop being dropped as a gold pile, because gold has rarity as well. So you can see when you drop in a 13 gold pack, that'll be like a normal drop, then you'll see that like 1013 gold is single drop will be a more rare drop of gold. They'll be lowering that by 50% so it doesn't take up a slot for dropping a rare item. They did a fix for the move only command, and it no longer name locks. I don't really know what that is because I don't use click to move, so maybe someone can let me know down below what that is so you can help the guys out. I'm not sure what that is. And the final part is a concern for players in endgame is accidentally missing rare monsters. In addition, many maps did not have the number of rare monsters that they should have had. We'll be making the following changes in a patch later this week. Rare monsters will now appear on the minimap when there are 200 monsters remaining instead of 50. Many maps have had additional rare monsters added to them to make sure that there are a minimum number in every map type. They'll continue to work on the map layouts and monster density issues in maps. So basically what the rare monsters now appear in the minimap, when you get down to 50 monsters, the rare monster would appear on your minimap. If you now have 200 monsters remaining on that map, it will show you where the rare monster appears on the minimap itself, so you can actually find them easier. This makes it a little bit easier so you don't have to kill everything in an area, saving you some time, although I always clear maps anyway, so it doesn't really affect me. I'll leave a link for this actual thread itself in the description and a link to the full patch notes itself that will be dropped in a couple of days. I was really hoping they would make some more changes to the amount of items that were dropped off of rare and unique monsters, and I was kind of hoping that they would make some changes to the campaign and act experience. I mean, the campaign is really good. I am really enjoying it, but there are some things in there that need to be sort of had a look at. But being able to teleport from checkpoint to checkpoint is really going to help taking away a lot of the issues of the size of the maps and being able to traverse. And while I do love to explore the maps and go through the maps, I don't like to be running back and forth for a minute or two at a time to get to a spot that I might have needed to go to drop off a quest or pick up a quest item that I couldn't do earlier. Just running backwards and forwards with nothing to kill in between, it can get quite annoying. But other than that, everything else seems to be pretty good. They've done a lot of things that a lot of people were talking about. Now we know that the early access has a focus on the end game and making sure the end game is going to be good for when the game releases, so that's why I feel like they're focusing on that right now. Let me know down below what you guys think. Are these changes good enough for you? Is there some things you would have rather have seen? That's all we have today. I want to thank you all for watching. Fly safe and avoid local chat scams.